What's up, wrestling fans? Welcome to another Pay-Per-Viewpoint edition of the Smark Out Moment Smack Talk podcast. WWE Tables, Ladders, and Chairs 2020 is coming up this weekend, so we're going to give you our rundown here, previewing everything that we can about the card that we are aware of, talking about the matches that are scheduled, who we think is going to win those matches, what our thoughts are on whether we're excited about those matches, anything else that we want to get into. I am your host, as always, Tony Mango. Joining me, as always, is Robert DeFelice.
I miss Armageddon.
Never really liked that name.
I don't care. It's better than this.
I mean, it is well documented at this point with, I don't know how many podcasts and how many articles that I've complained about TLC in the past that I don't like TLC. I think that, first off, it's not its own match. It's just a ladder match. And then when they give it to where it's not climb the ladder and grab something, then it's just a no DQ match. So it defeats the purpose of the whole thing. But it's something that's been really getting into my skin lately. The TLC logo. It's not a good logo.
It's not, but it's at this point, it's one of the ones I've liked the most.
Like the Money in the Bank one, it looks like a briefcase. The Royal Rumble one, it's very minimalist, but it's got essentially a top rope.
It's the Real Time with Bill Maher logo. I don't know why they use that.
And WrestleMania is just WrestleMania. Like, you can't change it at this point. They change it every year. Like, just give it little tweaks and everything. But, you know,
I think it'd be
I'm
cool if
not...
they went back to the original, like the original gradient and all that.
The purple background and everything.
Yeah, fuck yeah, do it.
But TLC is just points. And the letters TLC. There's no... Like, how did they not work a table, a ladder, and a chair into it? How do they not...
Well, they
don't even have 3 points anymore. It's just 2 points now.
No, it's a 3-pointed object.
Look at the posters. They've got they got the point on the T, the point on the C, and they don't have anything at the bottom anymore on like the graphics for the matches and everything.
I'm gonna actually look at that because the one we have on Fightful was the one from the Survivor Series commercial, and that has 3 points. So did they actually update this to not have?
They do it 50-50. Sometimes they've got the 3 points, and sometimes they take the bottom point out.
That's dumb.
Which I hate it. I don't see the point in it. I don't like the name. I don't like the way that they structure these things.
I'm looking at it now. Huh. That's terrible.
Why not, at the very least, make it something that is just like, I've said this before, Hell in a Cell doesn't need to happen every October. TLC shouldn't be a pay-per-view.
But it never needs to happen because TLC was a thing. And I'm not going to bore you with the history lesson because you guys already know. Hardys use ladders. Dudleys use tables. Edge and Christian, they did the concerto.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, bring them all to SummerSlam. You're fighting in a TLC match. And it, at least for a long time, they kept it minimal to where it was like, okay, one of these 6 is allowed to compete in a TLC match. And then they just, no, it's whatever. Everybody does it.
I even would accept it more if it was there's a table match and a ladder match, and even though a chairs match doesn't make any sense, at least then you go, okay, you're booking the 3 matches.
So I'm so glad you brought this up because I think this is the perfect starting place. There's only 2 gimmick matches announced, and they're the 2 main events, and that sucks, and I'll tell you why. My favorite TLC pay-per-view is TLC 2010. Why? Because even though it's a mess, every single match is either a tables match, a ladders match, a chairs match, or a TLC. And like, here's the thing. If you have 4 separate gimmick matches, and then an endless amount of match modifiers, be it tag team, triple threat, fatal 4, fatal 5, 6-way, whatever, you have an endless amount of modifiers, and then you go, no, we're just going to do the one thing. It's like, come on. Don't even call it TLC at that point. Call it in your house.
Yeah, they should just do some kind of non-specific pay-per-view, like not necessarily like Starrcade, because they don't need to necessarily just bring that back for that.
Roadblock, end of the road. I thought that was a fantastic.
Yeah, Roadblock is either December or it should be right before WrestleMania.
I liked the fact that they only did it once, and they did 2 in the same year, where they
Yeah.
did the one which was the Roadblock on the road to WrestleMania, and then they did the one that was just called Roadblock End of the Line because it's the end of the year. Go with that.
And
Fuck off. Like,
just call it like I don't know, like I hate the we're gonna rename this no DQ thing something and it's gonna just be the same thing unless it's gimmicky to the point where that's the point. Like the Miracle on 34th Street fight, I like that because it's like, all right, well, you're specifically putting presents and trees and stuff around the ring, so you can call it that. And
or the
the
tables,
Trick or Street
ladders.
fight, you're putting pumpkins and you're putting the kendo sticks are made to look like candy canes on Christmas, and they're made to look like candy corn on Halloween. Okay, you're having fun with it, but when they just go, well, this one's an Extreme Rules match, and this one's a no holds barred match, and this one's an ODQ match, and this one's, and you're like, they're all the same. This one's a kendo stick match. Okay, can you use other weapons? Yeah. Okay, well then it's an ODQ match. It's not a kendo stick
Oddly
match.
enough, the only match that they have that specific caveat worked out in is a chairs match. You can only use a chair. Anything else, disqualification.
Makes no sense. But it's like, at least if you would go with like the Roadblock name, you could just do whatever you wanted. You don't have to do a gimmick. And it could just be, hey, it's WWE Roadblock. It's the end of the line. If you want to find your way to make a name for yourself in 2020, this is your last chance to do it. And if you want a gimmick match, do it. If you
I mean,
don't have like, maybe if you don't have Hell in a Cell in October and now's the time to do a Hell in a Cell match, you do it. Or if you want to try to make the Roadblock thing a thing, call it the Roadblock match and make it where it's like, you got another little gimmick to it where it's, hey, you've got a counter, there's a time frame on there, and you can get like, because they don't do time limit stuff
they
anymore.
don't do scrambles anymore. Scrambles were fun, by the way.
The scrambles were fun, even if they just brought it on to like a episode of Raw, it would be great. But like, you want to call it the Roadblock end of the line thing and say, okay, this match has a time limit. You have a X amount of time to score your pinfalls, and at the end of it, then that's who wins or something. I don't know.
It's the end of the line, yeah. Didn't they do? As a matter of fact, they did an Iron Man between Charlotte and Sasha at the one and only Roadblock end of the line,
Hmm.
because it was the end of the line for that feud. Because sometimes, only sometimes, do they want to have things make sense.
Well, if we are expecting WWE to make sense, we're just in
We're in the
for a
wrong
wrong.
year for it.
Yeah. And if this is indicative of the way that the year has gone, this is, something that's going to be all over the place. And we've seen that, of course, because we don't have a full card right now. We have more than we've had in some other pay-per-views this year, where sometimes it's been like the day before the event and we're like, we've got 2 matches. What the hell's going on? We have 6 matches right now. That one of them has a TBA participant. It seems like there's a chance that we could get some other matches added to the card, usually because they typically end up with 7 to 9.
Yeah, I think we're sticking with this because they're doing the SmackDown Tag Title match on SmackDown.
Yeah,
They're
the Dolph Ziggler and Robert Roode are fighting for the tag titles this Friday, so maybe
And
they do
unless they do
something.
something egregious, like, and for some reason, Ziggler and Roode have brought out tables,
They could
unless
very well do that. They've done that in the past.
they did that earlier this year with the New Day, Cesaro, and Shinsuke for Extreme
And
Rules.
yeah, and it's the type of thing that if they decide that they want to do that match and then just redo it, they've set that precedent. They do rematches 1,000 times at this point. So it's not like, well, they already did it, they can't do it again. They'll just keep doing it. I
Yeah,
mean,
but they're getting really, like, I don't want to say lazy because that's not the right word for this
it is.
particular instance. Not for this instance, but they're getting very like, no, we're doing this on the TV show and that's it. Like, we're not doing this at the pay per view. Like, AJ Styles had a whole IC title reign, never defended it once on pay per view.
Hmm. Well, the IC title's another one that maybe they do something. And Sami Zayn has been retaining the title or just winning non-title matches by count out. So you figure Apollo Crews, Daniel Bryan, Big E. He didn't have a match with Otis, right?
No.
I don't think
He
so.
wa I think he was going in that direction, and then they just said, "Fuck Otis."
It
Like,
seems kind of like that's the case.
I don't wanna be mean about it, but it seems like that's what they've done. Like, he was Money in the Bank, he was looking to fight Sammy, and they just went, "Yeah, nah."
Yeah, they lost their luster when it comes to Otis, and then they just
By the
said,
way, I
you
think it's
know,
been a year, maybe not to the day, but, like, it's been a year since that Secret Santa thing started the whole Mandy story.
how many years has it been since they went out on the show, the
2
McMahon
years.
family,
It's
and
only it's
said
only been 2 years.
2 years
I know
of
it
them
feels
saying we're gonna
longer.
listen to the fans and give you what you want.
Yeah, it's only been 2 years. I know it seems like a lifetime ago, but that was only 2018.
Think about it this way: it's been 2 years since they felt the need to say that after
Oh,
having such a bad time.
they're gonna do that again. Let's be real. I would not be surprised at all if they said Vince McMahon is opening up the December 21st episode of Raw. Those ratings are low.
Yep,
Lowest of all time, I'm hearing. So they're gonna do that again very soon.
and it's just gonna be more empty promises. Uh, well, I don't think, but I don't put a whole lot of stock in this prediction. I don't think we're getting an Intercontinental Championship match at TLC. I
Yeah,
think that their philosophy this year, unless
January
maybe
1st, 2021 is a Friday and they're live.
that's, yeah, they have a tendency, especially this year, and especially with these ratings being the way that they are, they don't care about the pay-per-views. They've more than shown that. The pay-per-views are booked at the last minute. Then again, the TV shows are settled at the last minute too, but I think that that's because they just keep changing their mind. Whereas the pay-per-views, I think that it's an afterthought in a lot of ways because in their mind, the people that have the network, they have the network. They already have them. Nobody is going to sign up for the network at this point unless the TV show drags them in, and that they need to worry more about the TV ratings, which you would think if that's the case, that they would stop doing repeat matches, but they just don't get this. I don't understand what you do something a million times and you expect a different result. Like, what's the problem, you know?
Einstein said that was insanity.
And he's right, because it is insane. And I am fully expecting, based off of the fact that they do this with Raw 25 and SmackDown 1000 and Raw 1000, whatever, we're getting a title change for the Intercontinental Championship on either the last show of the year or the January 1st episode.
Did you see the Paul Heyman promo with Biggie? Or did you at least hear about it?
Oh, the Talking Smack thing?
Yeah, where he basically says, "You're gonna be the biggest thing ever if you can accept that, like, the New Day is just a small part of you." And everybody took that to run with it to go, well, at least that's precedent for, like, if you want to run a Biggie Roman Reigns promo, that's a good clip. And I could see that happening, but I also could totally see it just being a Royal Rumble match instead of a
Hmm.
WrestleMania.
Now, Big E is my pick that I think will win the Intercontinental Championship, but maybe they give it to Otis. Maybe they give it to Daniel Bryan. You know, maybe they have some other kind of a card up their sleeve, and I'm just anticipating Sami Zayn's not dropping the Intercontinental title at TLC. He's dropping it on SmackDown.
Yeah, and I'm going with the January 1st episode.
I think that's probably a more likely scenario too. I mean, they can get away with New Year, new champion, that kind of thing.
They did it this year, Tony. Braun defeated Nakamura.
The other week before that, though, it's Christmas.
Right.
So they can get away with the whole, hey, this is like a Christmas gift. We've got a new champion and whatever that. Like, both days are holidays. It's one of those odd types of years where they line up correctly like that. And they're not going to get that as good with Monday Night Raw, but they can still do that because it's just it's January 4th. they can just get away with doing some kind of a thing like that. So they might even do that for the United States Championship between Bobby Lashley and Matt Riddle. But I'm less inclined to believe that that's going to happen there. I think that that's going to happen with the Intercontinental title instead.
I hate to admit it, but like I'm not. I don't know if it was like the bad timing of the speaking out stuff, or just like the weird rebranding on Raw, or the all of it, honestly. But I'm not feeling Riddle anymore. I kind of just feel like he's just another guy.
I actually like his gimmick now. I think that that's more fun than if he was just still the Matt Riddle from before. He's got a little bit more character. But the speaking out stuff is kind of like I can see the hesitation in pushing him until that's at least sorted out. So I don't know if
Honestly,
he would win the title anyway, Still think
yeah,
that Keith Lee might, but
and honestly, it looks like they're about to put the tag titles on the Hurt Business. So maybe just let the Hurt Business all be champions for a while.
let's get into that. The Raw tag team titles are on the line. It's the Hurt Business challenging the New Day. They've had like 19 matches between singles matches and 6-man tags and even just regular tag matches over the past couple of weeks. It's the typical thing where WWE's like, all right, well, we're doing this. So there you go. We're done. Let's get lunch. They didn't really put a whole lot of thought behind it. It's a shame because I really like both these teams, but they're not trying too hard here. In fact, that's being a little bit too much leeway. They're not trying. It's not that they're not
Yeah.
trying too hard. They're not trying. It's just the Hurt Business lost a bunch of matches, but then they said, "Give me another," and they won, and then they won some more. So now they're going to fight again, and I think that they're going to switch to tag titles. I think that the New Day already had their match with the Street Profits at Survivor Series, so they don't need to hold those titles anymore. And now that that's out of the way, go with the Hurt Business, claim it as a type of thing where, hey, look, the titles changed hands. Are you going to tune into Monday Night Raw? That kind of thing. And I'm not opposed to it. I'm just opposed to the way that they got there.
Okay, I just want to throw this out there. WWE has had a horrible trend this year of just doing ladder matches to do them, but this would have been a dope ladder match. I mean, Shelton Benjamin and Kofi Kingston
Mm.
are two of the most innovative men to have ever been in ladder matches. This would have been fun. Uh, Listen, the match they had on Raw November 16 or whatever it was so good that they're up for a match of the year Slammy, because I don't know, it was just that good. Her Business is great. Of all the shit this year, you have to look at those four men and go, you guys are the epitome of what 2020 should be, because you're having a great fucking year.
They are
All of them.
definitely just on that little list of positives from this year. Her business is fantastic.
Her Business is great.
I loved, by the way, we're not going to get into too much of talking about Raw and everything, but um, obviously we're going to do that on the hot tags. But just to mention it here, I loved how long they held the whole thing with the pouring the milk on the guy. And I
Yeah.
don't know who it was. I think it might have been Shelton. Was just like, that's a lot of milk. It's just like,
They are so good. Benjamin deserves a belt. He's always deserved more, but now he really give him this belt and give Cedric Alexander this belt. All right, like they've done enough.
it's a tag title. Give it to him. Yeah.
Give them the. And here's another thing, and I wrote this in the triple threat, which you'll see on Smark Out Moment in the coming days. New Day's done, in my opinion. Biggie is going in his own unique direction. Yes, it's super cool that you guys were the one group to never break up, but you don't need to do the New Day shtick. Let's all go our own separate ways, and then when we come together, it'll be great, just like the Shield. What the Shield can put their fists in right now on any program, and it'll be the biggest thing of the year, because that's how over the Shield was. New Day, same thing, but they need to go away. I understand the trepidation of, but then we're left with the Hurt Business, Retribution, and the Lucha Dragons. But that is what it is. Let's get
Lucha House
Kofi.
Party.
what I call them?
Lucha
Oh,
Dragons.
oh, I gotta go fix the triple threat. I call it. All right, so there you go.
You're
Editing on the
dragging
fly.
Kalisto back a couple years.
Well, look, the Lucha Dragons at least had a ladder match at TLC. All right, like, but look, here's the thing. I know that's my saying. Merge these belts, merge these divisions. These tag divisions suck. Merge them.
Merge all the divisions.
But for now, keep the titles on the Hurt Business because they've earned it. They've done the thing that you're supposed to do in wrestling and have earned the push to where they are now. Give them the belts.
I know that you are very much into the idea of merge the brands. I would
Yeah,
not be opposed to the idea of brands merging. And
honestly, Royal WrestleMania should legitimately be we're gonna merge the belts.
you get rid of you have one world champion, and it's Roman Reigns, most
Yep.
likely. You have maybe two mid-card
Maybe
titles.
two secondary. Yeah, every brand deserves a tertiary belt. So maybe you don't need to merge the IC in the US.
You have one women's champion, but you introduce a women's mid-card championship.
And
And
you introduce it gradually, might I add. Gradually. You introduce a women's mid card title. And then you're good because you got 3 belts for the women, 4 belts for the men. You're all one big brand. You're good. Yeah.
so I'm going Hurt Business here. I think
Yep.
that it's not even necessarily a move for any particular reason, if not just to do it. Like, Hurt Business is great, give them the tag titles. The New Day, they don't need to hold the titles any longer. They're well at a point now that they've won the championship enough that they are like in John Cena territory where you can win it, drop it the next month, and it doesn't matter. I do want the New Day to win it a couple more times though. I still want them to be just check off all the boxes, just be the longest reigning, the most amount of times. Do that. And in order to do that, they need to lose it. So lose it to the Hurt Business. They're fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah,
What's the worst that
I couldn't
happens?
agree
They give it
more.
back. you know?
And then, Big Swole can get happy about it on Twitter.
Yeah. So with every matches that we're talking about here, we want to know what your opinions are as well. So drop a comment below on whatever platform you're listening to us on that has a comment section, which is primarily on YouTube. And while you're over on YouTube, hit the like button, hit the share button, hit the applause button, hit the subscribe button, double check to make sure that you're subscribed too. There's still plenty of people saying that going around, there is that whole bug and glitch. That's why I've mixed them together. The blug and the gitch.
The
That,
Blug and the Gitch.
yeah, that like unsubscribes people unknowingly, so double check about that, and we'll ring that little notification bell too. But drop a comment and tell us your thoughts on these matches. Do you think the New Day is going to win? Do you think the Hurt Business is going to win? What matches do you think they're going to be added to the card? Whatever the case may be. Obviously, if you're on some kind of platform that does not have that, you're checking us out on Spotify or on Amazon Music or Google Podcasts or something, then hop on over to YouTube. Do everything over there. YouTube's better. And, send us a tweet at Smark Moment, post something on the Facebook page, check out the Mega Maniacs Facebook group, drop a comment below on the page on smarkoutmoment.com. Just interact with us. Anyway, moving on here. I have almost nothing to say about this match, and I feel like that's a disappointment, which is the SmackDown Women's Championship match between Sasha Banks and Carmella, because we just saw it. Like, they literally just did the match. I think that the feud is very lazy again because Carmella just started attacking Sasha. Why? Because she's fighting her at a pay-per-view coming up.
So
It's basically it. She smashes a bottle of champagne or wine or whatever on her, and that's it. She's got a sommelier now. Okay. It's Akeem Young.
so
Although
one
she's
thing
calling him Tommy.
yeah,
So,
I've noticed that. She's just calling him Tommy. I asked this question: does Graves have access to the sommelier? Like, why is Carmella just ordering people around? But I like I like this as a palate cleanser after the Bailey stuff because this is such a pro wrestling paint by numbers. Oh, I'm a hot diva. Oh, you're not. Oh, we're gonna fight. Like, it's so based in kayfabe that it feels good after having like what seems like 5 years of
Meta.
but yeah, but like she's my best friend outside, and we got to change the industry. I'm glad that it's just like, no,
Heel.
I'm the champ, you're the fucking bitch heel, and we're gonna fight. And by the way, we don't usually get into this, but both of these women and their outfits killing it. These are like two very, very classy, good-looking women, and
I'm
it
not digging
works for me.
Carmella's new look.
You're not digging the whole. Is it just because she's wearing the same like red all the time, or you're
I
just not
don't
digging it?
that outfit is just like it seems like it's made out of like PVC piping or something to me. Like it just doesn't seem normal. I'd buy that more being what somebody's wearing in The Fifth Element.
I, I'll allow it.
Sasha, by the
Uh,
way, though, I mean, God, fantastic.
Sasha is for a world where nobody's watching. Sasha is putting on a show for everybody.
Yeah.
Like,
She's like, I'm winning that fucking ring gear award. I'm winning, the best outfits and all that.
and she's winning here because I'm
Yeah.
sorry, it makes no sense otherwise. Sasha Banks needs to keep this belt and do one of two things at WrestleMania. She either needs to drop it to Bianca Belair or she needs to merge it with Charlotte Flair. And I don't see the latter happening, so she can drop it to Bianca Belair at WrestleMania.
Hoping that's the case. And yeah, Carmella's not winning this. Carmella won the match on SmackDown to give her the heat to lose this. It's the type of thing that they do with everything. It's, the person who's gonna, it doesn't happen like 100% of the time, but it's around 90% of the time that the person who wins on the pay-per-view loses or is made to look weak heading into the pay-per-view. It just happens. That's their
I guess
go-to simple, everybody has their tropes. Every TV show, you watch like an episode of Law and Order, and they're going to have the whole two people are jogging and they stumble across a body at the beginning of it, and then later on you're talking to the guy at the shipping yard and he's loading stuff, and while he's talking to the cops, yeah, I didn't see anything, but maybe whatever. It's like every Bond movie's got their tropes. Everything has their patterns. In WWE, their pattern is champion looks weak. Oh, look at that, the champion ended up coming through and retaining. Or,
well,
the challenger looks weak. I don't know how they'll be able to beat the champion. They did it. That kind of thing. I'm not into it.
my only question becomes, what does Sasha do at Royal Rumble? And I guess at Elimination Chamber as well.
Who is left on that roster right now? I mean,
Natty?
it seems weird to say that because it's like she hasn't had any real feuds, but yeah, maybe Natty fights her. Because they've been doing some stuff with Natty. I don't really know what they're doing. I don't think that they have any idea what they're doing.
Billie Kay
Maybe
with her headshot and resume in a handicap match?
there's Tamina, so she's not doing that unless they give her like one random ass push. And let me go on a page on smarkmma.com, the handy dandy roster page. And let's load this up. We've got the Bailey thing, which we can't really do again without it just being like, oh, come on. Can't do Chelsea Green. Can't do Liv Morgan and Ruby Riott. Yeah, it's pretty much, it's got to be Natty.
So do they have Carmella win it here just to lose it at Rumble?
I hope not. Or they just do another repeat. They just keep these two feuding and they just have another match at Royal Rumble. You know what I wouldn't mind, though?
Billie Kay?
I wouldn't mind them not having the title on the line at Royal Rumble.
Like they did the first year where they just had the girls watch
Yeah.
the Rumble match. I like that.
I don't mind it if they don't put the title on the line because it's like the selling point is the Royal Rumble, and very, very, very rarely does the championship ever change hands. They've got 4 titles that could change hands, and they've done it like, I don't know, maybe like 10 times grand total, something. I can't even remember an example off the top of my head, but I know it's happened. I mean, I know that like the WWE Championship has changed hands at the Royal Rumble and everything too, but just go with like Banks against Natty. Have so I'll get into this when we get into the other match, but have Sasha Banks defend the title and I don't know. No, actually, don't do that in the Elimination Chamber because I like the Elimination Chamber being. They probably would, though. Now that I'm thinking about it, they probably would have Sasha Banks defend the
Well,
title in the
it's
Elimination Chamber, then put the number one contenders match on SmackDown because they want to get that rating
it,
for that week.
it depends. Like if Belair wins the Rumble, they don't need that. If Rhea Ripley wins the Rumble for Raw,
Yeah,
I'm jumping the gun on what I think will happen
that's
here.
why. Yeah, it's because
listen,
that's
listen.
like
We're getting WrestleMania 36 Part 2.
we
Let's do
are.
it all over again, and that's just what it is.
We pretty much are, and I get WWE's philosophy of to do that kind of thing. I don't necessarily fault them for it because in the same scenario, I can make the same argument of, well, the Elimination Chamber doesn't have to be a number one contenders match. It could be for the title. Wouldn't that be interesting? And then we could do a number one contenders match on whatever. I get splitting things up and trying to do something. But for instance, the Banks and Carmella match, if you would have advertised that as the title match is happening on SmackDown last week, maybe the rating would have been a little bit higher. But they did it at the beginning. I don't think anybody that was going to turn on the show would have been watching the show to find out that information. And I don't think it would have been a newsworthy enough thing for them to have gotten people to go, spread this around social media, then you can start tuning in. I think
Right
that was a
now,
mistake.
right now, like let's just take the example of Sasha because that's the match we're on. They would need to announce, "Hey, Trish Stratus is fighting Sasha Banks on SmackDown on Twitter." And then you do like 3 weeks of compelling television. And then maybe on week number 4 you can start to go, "All right, let's see if they're tuning in and then we'll just announce something on the show." Right now they're not in a position where people are just so enthralled in their product that they're watching to see what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
You got to tell them first.
Or they're so interested, but they're not watching. So they're following on Twitter and whatever to find out if there's a reason to tune in. If they don't care enough to watch, they're not watching it. It's just how it is. And if something big happens, they'll find out about it from their friends afterward.
And I can't say I blame them because, spoiler alert, for the first thing we're going to say on Sunday, the kickoff show was an hour recapping everything that happened in case, you're not watching the show.
Right,
So you can
yeah.
just watch the kickoff. So nobody needs to watch the show. And that is the issue.
All the more reason to not do the kickoffs. Nobody
So
watches
stupid.
them. Oh, except for like us, which it's because we have a job tied to it. But nobody
Yeah.
else does. Nobody cares. If people on like the regular that have the network and watch things, whatever, they don't need to know the information. If they're casuals, they're not tuning into the kickoff. And it's not like they're all that complex anyway, so you don't need to explain it. If people don't get it and somebody's like, oh, wow, I didn't even know that this was a feud, maybe you should tune into fucking Raw. Tune into SmackDown. Maybe that gives them a reason to tune in,
Yeah.
We mentioned this earlier. You keep doing things the same and expecting different results. I don't know what the difference is. And you would think that somebody along the line would come in and they'd have enough power and enough influence to convince Vince to be like, dude, if everybody has been doing everything the same way for 20 years or 10 years or whatever it is for different elements, people are used to it by now. Let's change it up a little bit. Let's not have a kickoff that does everything with the pre-show. Let's just have the pay-per-view starts. And you know what? No video packages. If you're confused, watch Monday Night Raw and see what happens. Try it out for a couple months. What's the worst that happens? You get the same amount of people watching? Or you lose a little bit of people, and when you lose those little bit of people, you go back to the tried and true method. Like you can't
Yeah.
get anywhere unless you experiment. That's what I did with Smack Talk. Like I tried the rest holdout for a while as like maybe that's going to be, if it's dedicated towards just promoting things, maybe that'll get people to tune in. Found out that people weren't watching the rest hold. Guess what happened? Stopped doing the rest hold. Because it was a waste of time. People weren't checking it out. So if that's the case, then I'll incorporate the plugs in the middle of, talking about something else. Like I'll mention the merchandise shops, TeePublic and Redbubble, pick up a t-shirt or something. There you go. More likely that somebody right now is going to go, Oh, wait, he's selling t-shirts? Just because they're listening to this because they want to know about that, then if they were going to click on a thing that's dedicated towards me promoting it every week. And by the
Well,
way, everything's on sale, so you should check it out.
and it's funny, I just clicked on Twitter, and just like we mentioned at the top of this podcast, or maybe we didn't say it on the podcast, but I just want you to know it's 2 years to the day since that McMahon family. We're listening to you. We haven't been doing a good job for you. We're sorry. We're gonna give you what you want. You are the authority. Yay!
Are people like tweeting out that as like, hey, what happened to this?
Somebody did, and I was like, oh, okay, cool.
Spread that around, everybody. Retweet all those things. Let WWE know that we haven't forgotten about that. Just like we haven't forgotten about how we should know what's happening with Rhea Ripley's push and, different things like that.
Well, you mentioned Rhea Ripley. You want to talk about the Raw?
I
So the
think that
Raw
that's a
Women's
good
Tag
transition
Titles.
for that. Yep, because the Women's Tag Team Championship is on the line, not the Raw Women's Championship, because it's more important to talk about the Lana going through a table thing, which is up for a Slammy Award, which is really ridiculous. But Lana's not even in the match anymore. It is now Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler against Asuka and a mystery partner. And this is so annoying because that means they've spent the bulk of the year not giving a shit about Asuka. Let's be honest. They gave her the championship because they needed to do something because Becky Lynch was pregnant. So it's not even like they were like, oh, well, maybe she could work through it. No, she's pregnant. She's not wrestling, Well, she is wrestling, but, they didn't know that at the time. And pretty much right out of the gate, they were just like, yeah, but I don't fucking care about Asuka. Let's do everything we can to avoid that. She's never had any strong feuds. She was overlooked for Charlotte Flair as NXT Women's Champion. Think about that. They started to put the NXT Women's Champion on Raw to compensate for how they didn't think that Asuka was good enough.
Yep.
Then they don't have Charlotte anymore. So they bring in Bayley and Sasha Banks and go, you need to come to Raw because Asuka doesn't matter as much. And then for this, they couldn't bother be set up with a women's title match. So they just focus on the tag team thing. And I don't know what's going on with Lana. I don't know if she's injured or if she has some kind of like other project she's working on or I don't know. I have no idea
My
what's going on.
my fear, and I'm sorry, Lana, but my fear is that they think, let's stretch this out to the Rumble, and maybe we'll even give her a Rumble win. And I will don't overcomplicate things. You've already overcomplicated it. This was a very simple project. Lana puts Nia through table. Lana wins.
And you would
This is-
think at tables, ladders, and chairs that the most obvious thing to do would be to
And
have a tables match.
and they blatantly refuse because fuck off. I don't know.
Now, here's something that I think that they could have gotten away with. Book it as a tables match. Whatever's happening with Lana, I don't know where they're going with this. I have my theory about what the replacement is, but let's just assume it's not a matter of Lana needing to be off television, but that they just wanted to make Lana more sympathetic. Asuka and Blank are in the match, and Lana interferes and helps them put Nia Jax through a table to win. That way she screws them out of the tag titles. Maybe it's not necessarily Asuka and Lana as tag team champions because you don't want to go down that route. But Lana's the one that helped them do it, so she got her revenge. It's not
So
a
we
tables
have
match now. And it's not even Lana involved. So now Asuka is fighting the women's tag champions with who knows because of Lana going through tables. What?
Yep.
Now, are you on the same page that I am about this? It's going to be Charlotte Flair.
It's Charlotte Flair. It's Charlotte Flair, and here's why. What's the last thing Charlotte did, Tony? She fought Asuka, uh, beat Asuka, I believe. No,
And she
Asuka
got
beat her. No, Asuka beat her finally, and then she got
Nia
taken out
Jax
by
got
Nia
injured.
Jax.
Yeah. So she
Charlotte
teams
Flair,
up with Asuka to get a revenge on Nia Jax, and
they
then they
win the
start.
match because Charlotte Flair checks off the Grand Slam,
Oh
and
yeah, that's right.
then they have a match at the Royal Rumble. They lose the belts to the fucking Riot Squad somewhere along the way. And Charlotte Flair wins the title at the Royal Rumble. Charlotte and Rhea part 2 because it's the WrestleMania that you were supposed to see but didn't see.
hmm As soon as they get a chance, that belt's going off of Asuka and going on Charlotte. And I don't even think that they're necessarily going to win the tag titles. I think that they might do a scenario where she just turns on Asuka in this match.
No, I think they're going to win the tag titles because Tony, she's got to be a Grand Slam.
It wouldn't be shocking to me if they win the tag titles and they drop it the next week or a week after, or they do that kind of rushed type of thing where it's like Asuka and Charlotte win the tag titles here. They do a rematch probably the next night on Monday Night Raw because they love doing that. I hate it with a passion, but they love doing that. It's a TLC rematch, and Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler are going to get a chance to win back those tag titles and whatever. Let's show you a recap of what happened at TLC for 10 minutes, and then we'll have the people cut a promo about it, so that'll eat up 5 minutes, and then we'll do our entrances, and then we'll do a whole nother rematch and whatever. And oh, look at that. Now Charlotte and Asuka, they turned on each other or whatever. And then you set up Asuka versus Charlotte at Royal Rumble. Charlotte wins the title. Rhea Ripley wins the Royal Rumble. WrestleMania again.
Yep.
Asuka, in the meantime, what does she do at WrestleMania? And their answer is, who fucking cares?
WrestleMania, no, they care. Tony.
No, that's their answer. It's who fucking cares what Asuka
No,
does.
they care, Tony. It's the WrestleMania Women's Battle Royal. Because again,
If they
the
can.
WrestleMania that you were supposed to see. I think they've already done a Battle Royal at Survivor Series. They can do a Battle Royal.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, they did.
So they're doing a Battle Royal.
But see, the battle royals don't mean anything to them at WrestleMania. So right now,
Well, who
they're
cares?
not booking Asuka with that in mind of saying, and then she'll win the battle royal because they don't care. They've waited until I think it might have been the kickoff, or it might have been the WWE Now on the day beforehand or something of WrestleMania the one year to announce Dana Brooke was going to be in the battle royal, which was just like, she was literally the only person that they didn't announce that was on the main roster. And they just waited for Kathy Kelly to be like, oh yeah, by the way, she's in it too now. Like, they don't care. So in their mind, they're going to go, yay, we get it off of Asuka. We get it on Charlotte because Charlotte's going to help with everything.
And to
then
be fair,
Charlotte's not going to change the ratings. And then they're going to go, oh, it must be something else. You know, they don't like to acknowledge that Charlotte's not that big of a draw.
now I love Asuka, but I am very much ready for Charlotte Flair to come back. This division has been a mess. And yes, Charlotte's not the answer to everything, just like John Cena wasn't the answer to everything 10 years ago. But
Right.
at least they had him. You know, and that's where Charlotte is right now. At least they'll have her.
The more options you have, the better chances you have to be able to do more interesting things. Outside of the fact that when they are pushed up against a wall and they can't just go with their favorites, sometimes they end up doing some pretty innovative things, just like out of necessity. But this year proved that they just don't like booking Asuka. She's won a lot. Like, it's weird. She's won more things than most of the women have. The only thing she hasn't checked off at this point is winning the Elimination Chamber.
Right, because she hasn't needed to. Or was she in the one with Shayna this year that Shayna killed everybody?
I think so.
Maybe she'll win it next year. Just somehow she'll win something. But Asuka, I think they like Asuka. I just think they're stuck in their mind that hey, she can't cut a promo.
Right.
So like
That's why I think that they give her stuff like the championships where they go, she's the champion. It doesn't matter what we do with her.
right.
Like, their philosophy behind the Money in the Bank. Well, the person can lose because they're Mr. Money in the Bank. They're going to win. And then eventually when they after a while their stock goes down so low, they go, oh, why did we give the money in the bank to that guy? That guy loses all the time. And it's like, you booked it. Like, you did the same thing, you do it all the time. So it's like, yeah, no wonder nobody gives a shit about Asuka's title reign this year. They haven't given a shit. They think that the championship just made it like this, get out of jail free card kind of thing. And after decades and decades, you'd think that they would understand that that's not how this works. There's no introspection, it seems. But that's what's going to
Yeah.
happen. Charlotte Flair is going to be that person. And either they win the tag titles and eventually, over the course of the next month, lose the tag titles and she wins the Royal Rumble, or they don't even win the tag titles and they set up a WrestleMania thing anyway, like that.
I think I'm going with Charlotte Flair and Asuka are your new women's tag team champions. I don't know what happens with Lana, and that's the annoying thing, because I think that they might get it in their head that Lana would be a cool Royal Rumble win. Because wouldn't this be funny? She'll be the one, Tony. Every other woman will be eliminated. She'll be number 30 and just walk in the ring and win.
If that happens, they deserve all of the rating slumps, you know?
If that happens, I want credit for that scoop, because it seems like that's where they're going, right? You're not doing the very, very basic, um, story of Table, Lana, Nia, Table. That's it. It's literally a feud of the year in the Slammies.
Mm.
But no.
And you know what? It wouldn't shock me either to say this, and I'm going to put it out there in the hopes that I jinx them and they don't do it. Just like how I said, Cain Velasquez is winning that Royal Rumble, and thankfully it didn't happen. It wouldn't shock me at all if Lana is the number 30, she just walks out, she wins, and then they go, yeah, but you know what? She needs to actually defend that Royal Rumble win at Elimination Chamber against so-and-so, and then that person wins. And then that's like, okay, well, then now we've set up the WrestleMania match. And I don't want that to be the case with somebody like a Rhea Ripley. I don't want you to backhand her a push. So it would only work really well if it was a heel. And for that matter, I don't want this to be Charlotte's the one that knocks her out and beats Asuka for the title at WrestleMania. And fuck Rhea Ripley, we're not even going to do that. Because then that's like, now you're going out of your way to just waste another couple of months to avoid doing the thing that makes up for your mistake last year, At this point, you've botched a lot of things, mostly everything. Do the Lana Nia thing, set up a table match, get it out of the way, move on. Just put the belt on Charlotte. We know you're going to go there, and just have Rhea Ripley win the Royal Rumble. Just do it. Like, sometimes you have to just skip to the end, get it over with, and figure something else out instead of bouncing around for a whole fucking year again,
I still maintain that even though you can say what you want about WrestleMania 29, and God knows you have, Tony, but John Cena and The Rock build to that match, it was simple. They didn't try. They didn't deviate from what was obvious, and it worked out just fine. Just don't deviate from the obvious, because it'll work out, and they really need to stop doing that.
Sometimes the simple stuff is better. Drew McIntyre takes Brock Lesnar out of the Royal Rumble after Brock Lesnar is going on a tear. He wins the Royal Rumble. He challenges Brock Lesnar. He beats him at WrestleMania. It's fine. Like, you didn't need to do anything crazy. You didn't need to throw some wrench in the mix. You didn't need to switch things around and go, but he lost the ability. Now he has to earn it back. No, just fucking, hey, I want to see Drew beat Brock.
Yep, and that's what we need to do with this women's division. Don't overcomplicate it. Charlotte Flair wins. Rhea Ripley gets her Royal Rumble win. It's not going to make up for what happened this year, but maybe in 3 years we all just talk about 2020 like it's Voldemort.
Yeah, I mean, it resets everything at the very least. And it gets them to the point where they can just go, hey, Rhea Ripley beat Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania. You go, yeah, she already lost the previous year too. And they go, yeah, but we don't talk about that. And anyway, she beat her at WrestleMania, and like that kind of thing. So at least here, if it's not Charlotte, replacing Lana, then I have no idea where they're going with this.
I thought about Kyrie for a hot second, and then I remembered she's in Japan.
Yeah, I can't think of a single person that makes sense other than Charlotte.
Yep.
Like, it wouldn't make sense for it to be Rhea. Why would she be popping up there? It doesn't make any sense for it to be, like Peyton Royce. Or, I know I had read somebody going, oh, it's probably Nikki Cross. Why? Doesn't make any sense. Nikki's done nothing other than go, I'm afraid of what's happening to Lexi. And that's all she's been up to, and she hasn't even been doing that.
Yep.
So it's Charlotte. They either win the tag titles and then split very quickly, or they win the tag title, or they don't win the tag titles because they've already split. And it's like, I showed up and I fucking got you, because remember, I'm not just opposed to Nia Jax for injuring me. I also want to get the Raw Women's title, and And I don't know how they follow through with the Lana thing. Maybe they just don't. A lot of times WWE does that. They're just like, hey, wait 6 months and we're going to get to the end of this. Never mind.
Yeah.
Infuriating.
And then people will be like, give Lana a chance because you wanted to push her that one time with the table and she's so great. And then it'll become that thing.
And then the WWE the next time around will go, how come you guys don't let us do long-term storytelling? How come you guys don't do that? You don't trust us. And you go, because you don't finish. Like, it doesn't matter if somebody's like, I'm gonna I'm the best person at running a race, and you go, yeah, but you never actually cross the finish line. You just run in the opposite direction. You can run real fast, but it doesn't fucking matter,
It's like somebody telling you they make great burgers, and then they just give you steak tartare, which, if you don't know, is just raw meat.
Yeah.
You didn't cook it. There's no burger.
Or if you're watching a movie and the movie continually tells you to just wait until the end. Tenet. Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt. I do not care. I hate to be so down. Like, I know some people are going to complain and be like, oh my God, you guys are so negative all the time. I'm negative when I'm negative. I'm positive when I'm positive. Like, I don't know what to tell you. I've seen Randy Orton.
That's how things work.
Yeah, it's just like I'm not going to be the type of person that's going to pull a daisy out of my ass when there's no. Why am I going with this analogy? I was going to say when there's no seed in there. Who's shoving a seed up my ass? What's going on here? Somehow this analogy makes sense in my brain. It makes sense, right?
It makes sense.
You have the seed.
Like, why do you have a desire to garden in your ass?
Yeah, I don't know why the garden is in my butt, but I should have gone with some kind of an analogy of like, you can't grow something in the garden unless you plant the seeds, like that kind of thing.
There you go.
But I combined that with, I'm going to pull this out of my ass. So yeah, it's like, I've seen Randy Orton versus Bray Wyatt multiple times. And you know what? Their feud right now is following the Bray Wyatt methodology of you repackaged it, but it's the same goddamn thing. It's the same gift. It doesn't matter if you put a different bow on it. Bray Wyatt, as the Fiend, I said it before, people weren't believing me, and then eventually it seems like people kind of came around a little bit. He is just Bray Wyatt with a mask.
You wrote. I'm not convinced entirely that you haven't been writing for WWE this year because they gave up.
Wouldn't it be better if I was? You've been hearing my notes about the Power Rangers blueprint. You know I can write stories better.
I know, but at the very least, they've heard these podcasts because they've given up and just been like, "You're just a dude in the mask." Totally fucking the Fiend, by the way. But Roman, John, and Randy too. Oh, you're just Bray Wyatt in a mask.
Yeah.
Like, come on. Here's the thing. Why ain't this a flaming tables match? Why not just say, hey, look, it's a tables match, but you got to set it on fire. At least it's something.
Yeah, it's something to get people to go, oh, wow. Hey, I might tune in. Which is like amazing concept. You might want to draw viewers. Instead, their idea of a draw is for this week, their big angle coming into it with Bray Wyatt was he's gonna take his puppets on a road trip and they're gonna go to the Thunderdome where they've been for the past fucking however many months. Come
Yeah,
on, guys, like put a little bit of effort into something, you know?
just a little bit.
Imagine if I were to put up on social media for like this past week. Oh, guys, the main event for this week, we're gonna do a prediction show for TLC. And it's like, yeah, of course you are, because you do it for every pay-per-view. But this time, we're
It's a
gonna
prediction show.
give our predictions. It's like,
It's
uh-huh.
it really is egregious, and I think the overall the tone of this podcast is we need something different so terribly. And listen, well, we're not all happy, or at least I'm not, that like yes, AEW is putting a smile on my face by bringing in Sting. I'm not happy about that. That 62-year-old Sting is like, oh look, a star is on my TV.
That's when
But like,
WWE's gonna hear this and go, oh, Goldberg, do Goldberg. He wants Goldberg.
you know what though? I don't even mind Goldberg, but you can't have Goldberg beat the guy that we're going to talk about in a little bit, and we'll get there. But I just want to see things that make sense. Make me feel like you care. The problem is they know that everybody knows, so they don't fucking try anymore.
Yeah, they don't
And
care.
they don't try
There's no
because
passion.
it's like, well, hey, guy, because they can write it off by saying, hey, you're all smart. You know what actually went wrong. So we don't have to explain ourselves. And it's like, okay, like Triple H, where he just goes, yeah, I think Rhea Ripley will, feel better about this. And then he just goes, we couldn't do what we wanted and it's not happening.
Yeah, he gave the real answer after he gave the PR answer of, well, we did this because there's it's a learning experience and it's whatever. In reality, we just kind of fucked up and we couldn't really do it. Sorry, guys. And then let's move on to the next story and whatever. That's WWE's also playing with the pandemic a lot this year where they're
Yeah.
going, but it's a pandemic, guys. Can you just forgive us? And to a
And
certain extent, I will. Like, I don't blame them if, for instance, tomorrow they announce, fuck, Roman Reigns tested positive for COVID and we can't do the match with Kevin Owens. Then I'll be like, oh, okay, that sucks. Like, that's out of their control to a certain extent, even though you could argue like maybe they shouldn't be doing shows. But like that, I'll give them plenty of leeway on. I'm never gonna be opposed to. I mean, it's the same as anything else. Like you take a little 5-year-old kid, and the 5-year-old kid drops something and breaks something. Okay, you're a 5-year-old kid. I'm not gonna yell at you. But when you're like a responsible adult and you keep making the same mistakes and you keep running into the same problems because you don't want to change and you don't want to have any kind of introspection and anything, to a certain point you just go, all right, I'm not doing the boy who cried wolf thing anymore, and you're not getting a pass. What is this Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton feud other than it's the same feud that they did before, but this time Bray Wyatt's got a mask on? I mean, they've even talked about it. Orton's just like, yeah, I've fought him a bunch of times
he
and
tried to set him on fire.
I burned down his house and I've gotten into his head. This time, I'm going to get into his head. You did it already. You burned down his fucking house. Like,
I will say this. Randy Orton's had the performance of the year. I have
Randy Orton's been
enjoyed
great. Yeah.
I've enjoyed everything Randy's done, including here. I think Randy's done a fine job in this rivalry. It's just Bray Wyatt is gimmicked up Dolph Ziggler at this point, and
Mm-hmm.
we know that he's just not ever gonna amount to anything, except for, hey, we did that thing because we have this character. Isn't it cool? Like, yeah, it's cool. You know what'd be really cool? If John Cena comes back and they acknowledge what happened at 36. If they never run that back and we're just led to believe that that was a fever dream because COVID, what was the point?
Yeah. Now, as far as who wins this match, it's kind of a coin flip. They could go in either direction. Either they do the Randy Orton wins to set him up to look even stronger type of thing, and they try to push Bray as more of a sympathetic babyface, which I know everybody's going nuts about this. In my mind, he's not a babyface. Bray Wyatt hasn't done anything to
They
indicate that
piped
he's more
in the
noble.
babyface cheers when he got out of the flaming box.
Yeah, but it's still not a babyface kind of thing, you
I
know?
think they want it to be.
And maybe they want to go with, well, he could take a hit and we want to build up Orton a little bit more and kind of compensate for him dropping that title. But maybe, just maybe, they do something interesting enough where I don't know how they could necessarily pull it off, but here's what I would want them to do. Bray Wyatt is supposed to be all magical and mystical and's got these, he's been able to make himself a fucking hologram, you know? And as far as I know, he didn't train with Obi-Wan to figure out how to be a Force ghost. Maybe with Qui-Gon, I don't
Colbert.
know. Maybe what they could do here, depending on, let me preface this with another little thing. When we find out what happens at WrestleMania, don't go back to this podcast and go, oh, well, see, they didn't do that because of that reason, Tony. I know that maybe they are going in a different direction for this, and if that's the case, then no wonder they wouldn't set it up that way. But assuming that they go with Edge versus Randy Orton at WrestleMania, just assuming that that's the case, here's what I would do. I wouldn't have had Bray Wyatt versus Randy Orton to begin with. I don't think heel versus heel or tepid babyface versus a heel that you're making into a babyface because he's cool because he's fighting the Fiend and not backing up against it and whatever. I think that's a mistake, but whatever. I would have Bray Wyatt win this match because he figures out a way to get Edge involved. Where
Yeah.
Edge, either it's the real Edge or it's like some kind of a weird vision of Edge. Like Randy Orton is fighting, it should have been maybe like a Falls Count Anywhere match or something like that. And like Edge pops up and it's like Orton's just like, what the hell? Like, like, why are you back and whatever. And Wyatt is able to capitalize on that.
Like it's a hologram, like how he used to project shit on the ring.
Right.
Project a stretched out image of Edge onto the ring, please.
Or even
No,
like the lights go out, they do the whole like kind of like noise kind of thing. And the Thunderdome is just one big picture of just Edge. And Orton's just like, what? And then you get the Mandible Claw and the fucking Sister Abigail and whatever. Like, and then Orton can just be like, what the hell's going on with this? And
Edge, I want to fight you at some point, and
Edge,
then
I'm
he
gonna
can.
I'm gonna kick your ass if you ever show back up here again. I'll put you down, I'll whatever. And then Edge can show up again in the Royal Rumble or whatever and get Randy Orton out. And then you set
Right,
up
because
that for
we're running it back, Tony.
yeah.
Run it all back.
Like, just that's how you just do that then, like, But it shouldn't have been Bray Wyatt versus Randy Orton to begin with.
They did it because there's a story that there's a there, and I like it. It was a lot cooler. My favorite thing going into Survivor Series, Tony, was The Miz, Drew McIntyre, and Bray Wyatt all being like, I don't know who's gonna get you first, Randy, but somebody's gonna get you. And then they did the thing where they just had McIntyre beat Randy because they decided Roman versus Randy doesn't make sense. That story of everybody's after Randy and Randy's the champion was at least compelling to me. I cannot speak that same way about anything else. In fact, I told you this off air. For the first time in my entire life, I no longer regularly watch Raw. I no longer turn on USA. It's not compelling. And this angle is part of the problem because they're just like, we're doing this thing. Here you go. We're not gonna tell you why. Where's Alexa Bliss, by the way?
Yeah.
COVID? I don't even know if I'm allowed to say that, but you know what? We know the world we're living in. Is it COVID? Because she hasn't been on what, a week or two, 2 weeks? Like
Yeah.
she's become a non-factor, and even if she is a factor, how do you play into Randy Orton and Alexa Bliss? Like, is Randy gonna try to seduce Bliss and then kill the Fiend with jealousy?
I
I
think
thought,
that she's been out of the mix because they don't know what to do with her.
but how? Like, you were doing so much, she's doing just fine. Like, why do you stop in the middle of these things and just go, "No, I'm done here. We're gonna reboot."
I think it's literally like they were like, wouldn't it be interesting if we did Bray versus Randy and that Randy tries to get through to Bray with Alexa? And then that week they do it. And then the next week they're sitting around the table. They're trying to figure out, okay, well, then what do we do with Bliss now? And somebody goes, I don't fucking know. And then everybody else goes, yeah, I don't have any idea either. And then they go, well, we just won't book her. And then they just don't book her.
I want to let you know, 23 years ago yesterday, Vince McMahon cut the promo that opened up the Attitude Era. I want to put this in context because it's always December. It's not like this is a new thing. They just really stop caring around December.
But that's been this year.
And then they just don't
Like,
care for the rest.
we can't
So
look back on 2020 and say, oh, now we're in the lull. Like,
mm,
this year has been, in some ways, it's not their fault, yeah, but in other ways, they've been doing things where they're just like, well,
look, there's obviously the overarching pandemic, but they are using it as a crutch
yeah,
to be even lazier than ever before.
yeah, and the ratings are showing that. I'm going Bray Wyatt winning.
Randy Orton.
Yeah, might as well. Flip a coin. Because you know
Yeah.
what? They don't fucking care.
It's
There's
not like
no, I don't think that there's an end game to this. I think that this was something for them to do for 1 week, kind of a
the
thing.
Fiend isn't indestructible anymore. He
Yeah.
hasn't been since he lost to Goldberg.
So really quickly, another plug I'll toss out here. If you want us to talk about anything that we are not talking about, and you want us to do just more in general, the best way to make sure that we do is to check out the Patreon and to donate to whatever the different tiers that you've got the spare change to be able to do. $1 goes a long way. I have said this before a million times. I'll say it again. The more people that donate to the Patreon, the more that I will downgrade the tiers to the point where, like the $10 Darkcasts or Patreon exclusive episodes, the more people that donate to the Darkcast, the more likely I'll put that down to the $5 level. Because I would rather that be something that would be like the $5 tier than the $10 one. And I'd rather more people do that than for just a few people to spend the money for that kind of a thing. Like, I'd rather get to the point where there's maybe not a million, whatever. There's not a million people subscribed to the channel as it is. But if everybody that was subscribed to the YouTube channel donated $1, I'd rather that be the case than for one person to spend several $100s. You know what I mean? So
Yep.
I think that if you've got the mentality that we give you at least $1 worth of entertainment on the website and the podcast combined per month, consider donating $1. It makes a big difference in the grand scheme of things. And the same thing happens to fanboysanonymous.com. If you go to fanboysanonymous.com, you check out the stuff that's happening there and you're a fan of that, you follow us on Facebook and Twitter and subscribe to that YouTube channel, which, yeah, it's been inactive, I know, but there hasn't been as much going on this year. And it's one of those things where I don't have the time to do that because there isn't that backing on there. The more people that subscribe on Patreon to Fanboys Anonymous and the more that people do the Pick Your Poison tier, whenever people do a Pick Your Poison thing, we do it. It always happens. That's what the whole point is. But the more people that follow Fanboys the more that I can actually dedicate the time to it. And if it's not the case, then I have to always prioritize Smart Out Moment and e-wrestling news and Bleacher Report and all the other kind of avenues, because those are the things that are, they're making the money back. And no, they're not. Let's be honest, they're not. I work my ass off and I don't get anywhere near as much as I could if I was working a minimum wage job. But anyway, on the side of things there, not going to go down a whole big rabbit hole about that. Patreon.com/SmarkoutMoment, Patreon.com/FanboysAnonymous. There's the join button on YouTube. There's the PayPals. There's whatever. If you got the giving spirit, if you got the spare change, and if you want to help us grow, that's the best way to do it. Now we got the 2 TLC matches. Well, they're all TLC matches, but they're not.
Can we
TLC.
combine this? Can we combine this into one?
I kind of was expecting to do that, yeah. Roman Reigns and Drew McIntyre are retaining, I think.
Yeah.
I don't have a whole lot of positive things to say about the Roman Reigns and Kevin Owens thing. I hate saying that because I love the Tribal Chief character, and I'm a huge, huge, huge fan of Kevin Owens. But if I'm perfectly honest, Kevin Owens hasn't been doing anything for the past 2 years. Like, they really just, they lost it with him.
Did you hear that for a split second they were considering, before Daniel Bryan came back, doing Vince and Shane against Kevin and Sammy
Yeah.
at that WrestleMania? Can you believe that it was just 3 years ago that he was fighting, that he got physical with Vince McMahon? Can you believe that it was just 1 year ago that he was in a major feud with Shane? How they did all of that. And they know the star they have on their hands.
He's so good.
The thing is, they get it into their heads that some people are just lifers, and then they abuse that by saying, oh, you're always going to be here. It's like any relationship. If you take somebody for granted, it's eventually just not gonna.
There's no passion behind it again.
Yeah, there's no. You're not facilitating the same results. There's no passion, and Kevin Owens' passion is dead. His promo last week on SmackDown, where he's like, "I have friends. Look at my friend table." This was like bad John Cena Nexus promo stuff, and I don't like it. That being said, I think this match will be fucking phenomenal. Because it's Roman Reigns and it's Kevin Owens, and they'll beat the shit out of each other. And on the Raw side of things, I don't like this AJ Styles. I thought that the club was cool because at least those are his buds, and he's going to have fun with them one way or another. But AJ, even AJ, I think there's going to be a period of time where you go, yeah, but after he lost that title to Daniel Bryan, it was all downhill. And he hasn't done much. I think you're going to see some of that because can you name anything besides the Boneyard match, which we can all name, that AJ Styles has done in the last, year and a half that's really popped to you?
Thinking.
So, he did the Boneyard, and he did that cool match with Daniel Bryan for the IC title. But as a story, AJ hasn't done much of anything, and that's something.
I mean,
that
if you say what's popped me, one of the things was, but it's not even necessarily him, but it's that stupid pie where they give him the peach pie, and he's just like, yeah, peach pie. And Omos is like, that's not a pie, that's a cupcake. Because that was just like, what the fuck is this?
But outside of, peach pie, here's another guy. Same thing as Owens, Tony. Can you believe that it was just 2 years ago that he punched Vince McMahon on SmackDown and then yelled? And then what'd they do with it? Nothing. They take advantage of these people all the time, and it's exhausting. That being said, I also think this match will be phenomenal
The matches
Because
themselves are gonna be good, or
of
they
course
at the
they're
very
good.
least they should be.
You ever watch Impact? Impact has great matches. Does anybody give a shit? No. And that is the terrible trend that wrestling is in. I wish I could go down the line and talk about everybody we've talked about on this show and go, name something they've done. They all have everybody just resting on their laurels, except Roman Reigns and Drew McIntyre, who've had standout years. But outside of that, what has anybody got going on? So we don't even need to ask who's going to win because we know Drew McIntyre is going to win. Roman Reigns is going to win. Roman Reigns should not lose the title until he loses it to whomever beats him at Mania. If he loses it at Mania, and maybe it's Goldberg, that's not something I want to see. Because just to wrap up everything I'm saying here, if you got to fucking bring back Goldberg 5 years after you brought back Goldberg the last time because nobody's doing anything, that is your problem. That is an issue that you are having where you do not know how to make people look credible.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't keep saying, look at how lacking in credibility our roster is, that we got to go up and dig up Goldberg to beat Roman Reigns. Because who wins in that scenario? Who wins?
Also, it's not, again, there's not enough introspection to know you've got a performance center. You're the one training these people. You're the one picking them to be on the roster, and you're the one writing the show. If every person on your roster is not good enough to get the ratings going, I mean, there's a phrase that makes a lot of sense that I didn't come across until a few years ago, but I've loved it ever since, which is if you find somebody who says that everybody is an asshole, they're the asshole.
Yep.
It's just that's how it works. Just everybody is a jerk in the world. Nobody's ever whatever. You're probably the one with the warped sensibility of how you are perceiving yourself, and that's how WWE doesn't realize how they're going about this. Like Drew McIntyre, he's been succeeding this year almost to spite WWE. You know what I mean?
But I will say this: by the time they get fans, people are so done with him.
Yeah,
They're not
that
gonna
sucks.
respond.
Because they'll have had a year's worth of him as champion, so it's not going to be anything that they haven't already seen. And then they'll go, oh, see, we never should have given him the belt to begin with.
And you know what they're gonna do? They're gonna turn him heel, and that's gonna be
Yep.
the promo that he'll cut for 6 months. Is how he carried the company during a pandemic, and then people come back and they boo him. And then
Yep. It's so obvious that they'll do that. That's exactly what'll happen. And he'll end up fighting somebody like
John Cena, who will come back just to say, I never cared if they booed me or cheered me because they're making noise. I appreciate the WWE Universe. I can write it in my sleep. That's why I don't need to watch.
It's
Change
just
the formula, please. And I'm not talking New Coke. You've been trying to do New Coke. The problem is you keep doing New Coke and you're not going back to classic Coke. We need you to kind of go back to things that work.
You see, switching the champion at the last minute, it's kind of like that Kodak film. No, it's kind of like Kodak.
It's like jazz music. And and you kids, you listen to the rap music with your hip and then you're hopping.
That's what Vince is pitching backstage right now to the writing team trying to figure out SmackDown or whatever. He's just like, you don't know what the jazz is all about.
Can you imagine Vince McMahon? This Vince McMahon, skinny, raggedy old voice, going up to Keith Lee and saying, you don't know what the jazz is all about. Like, can you just
I want you to be a fighter. I want you to go out there and kick some ass. I want you to be hipping and hopping and bipping and bopping.
You're over here with the rap music, and I just want you to know what the jazz is all about.
These people don't understand that new Coke. It's such good shit.
It's new. My God, it's on the label. It's new.
I don't want them to do reactionary stuff in the sense of, wouldn't it be interesting if The Miz won the championship and then Drew McIntyre has to win it back too? I don't want them to do that.
You know
Like,
what
I
we could
love The Miz. I want The Miz to be another champion again, but don't do that just for the sake of saying we popped a Monday Night Raw rating. And then the next week, what happens? You know? And they might do that. That's what I'm worried about with this. Is I'm a full blown Roman Reigns is beating Kevin Owens. That's the end of it. The match could be good. Jey Uso interferes. Roman Reigns wins. Whatever. The McIntyre and Styles thing, I don't think that Styles wins the championship, but it is a ladder match. And yes, it's a ladder match. It's not a TLC match. It's the same
you
fucking thing.
are you thinking what I'm thinking, where it's like they've never done this, but Miz can just say, "I'm cashing in. I'm climbing up that ladder, and I'm
Yep.
gonna just take the belt." Then
I think that there's a chance.
it's it's not the worst idea, and at this point, Miz is at least a fresh concept because it's been 10 years, guys. I got news for you: 10 years since he's been world champion. It's
Again,
not.
it would not shock me at all to try to bump a Raw rating if they do that.
It
And
would
then they
shock me
have
if they think
a
Miz is
WWE
gonna.
title match where Drew McIntyre wins the title back.
It would shock me if they think Miz is gonna bump a rating, because in his current state, he cannot.
I don't think it's necessarily that Miz will. I think it's we went off the air with this interesting thing.
You know what would bump the ratings? And I'm saying this as somebody who utilizes this. Stop tweeting everything and stop putting it on YouTube 5 minutes after it happens. We all know we don't have to watch the product. Yeah, like, we could go down this rabbit hole all day. Like, change the way that you're distributing your content. If you need people to tune into your programming to keep your ratings up, to keep negotiating these record-breaking deals that allow you to have record-breaking profits during a fucking pandemic, then change the way you distribute your content on free media.
You know what's funny to look back on is how WWE, we've talked about this on Fanboys podcasts and stuff too. WWE wants themselves to be Disney.
Mm-hmm.
As much as you can fault Disney on a lot of things, some unscrupulous business methods, some real oddball cult indoctrination type stuff when it comes to Disney World employees. Like, I mean, it's you start looking into that, and you're like, oh wow, this is like skeevy, you know? But that fucking company knows how to make money. Like, they are so good at understanding how trends work.
And that's why
And
they're going to buy WWE.
they make
I
their
fully believe
mistakes
it.
in a lot of ways. Like, Kathleen Kennedy fucked Star Wars up like insane because all she cared about was we need to target the female demographic and we don't need an actual story. But like, that company, by and large, look at how they took care of this whole Investor Day. If go back and check it out, everybody, if you're interested in this. And I know some people are like, well, you should only talk about wrestling when it comes to this. This ties into the way that it is. Trust me, I'm not just going on a tangent here. The Investor Day thing, Rob and I are breaking it down, and we're talking about how it's kind of insane how they were projecting that by the end of 2024, they were hoping to have, I think the number was 60 to 90 million
Right, and they're already at, like,
subscribers.
86 or something like that?
And
They're there.
they're past that point almost. And now they bumped up their thing to like 200 million or whatever. They're like, yeah, you know what? With this rate of success, we're hoping to get like, 3 times this or whatever. And it's like, well, you're probably going to figure out a way to do it because they go through Investor Day and everybody just goes, oh, wow, I can't wait to see what's happening in 2021. Nobody's talking about 2020 anymore. Everybody that's interested in Black Widow is like, can't wait to see Black Widow. Oh, dude, She-Hulk. Yeah, it's Tatiana Maslany. Oh, dude, Armor Wars. That's gonna be cool. Hey, did you check
What
out what's
if?
gonna happen with Acolyte? Do you whatever? What if? Like, and it's like this company understands it, and they tried something with the Mulan thing that got them the information. They said, you know what? Let's see what happens with Mulan. Let's try to figure out if Disney Plus is the avenue to go down this road. And they try out these types of things in a way that they can learn. And if something needs to be changed, they change it. WWE keeps going, what can we do in the meantime that's a quick fix? And quick fixes never fix the problem.
Now, their argument to that would be, well, you see, we produce 52 weeks of live content.
Mm-hmm.
Disney doesn't do that. They get the advantage that they get to plan ahead. I maintain, and I know we're veering off a little bit here, but our year should have been so light. This should have been the year without a wrestling match. Like, the fact that we have covered more wrestling than ever before is insane.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, this entire industry is built on, well, we can't take a day off because that's our whole business model. Because now that's like the only thing that they've had themselves in the back for. Well, we don't take a day off. Maybe you should. A lot of people are hurt.
A lot of people are hurt. A lot of people are sick. A lot of people are sick and tired of watching the same stuff. I do think that if they would have, now, yeah, of course, business side of things, you wouldn't be able to just be like, okay, well, we're going to take off the pandemic. We'll see you later, everybody, and not have their stock tank. I get it.
But they could have taken off a week.
But maybe cut some of the stuff. Like, I watch 205 Live every single week. Whatever resources they're putting into that, they're not getting it back. Take
Like,
that time off, give those people one less thing to deal with, and maybe they don't get burned out. Like, I would guarantee you, as burned out as I am, and I am way burned out. Like, I've been running on fumes for a couple of years now, and it's really getting to the point
That's a shame.
where I'm like, yeah, one of the reasons I haven't taken a break, to be honest, I don't think I'd come back. Like, I think if I stopped like working 24/7 for a solid week, I don't think I'd go back to doing it, and that would be just detrimental to my bank account, which is struggling
Yeah,
as it is.
I took a week off this year, and it's hard, pal.
Yeah, I haven't had a vacation in 10 years. No, more than that. I haven't had a vacation in 15 years in any fashion at this point, because
Good.
I stopped like being able to have like time off since high school. So, you know, I like I know that at sooner or later I'm gonna have to take some certain things off the schedule. Like, just can't do it. And it might be the type of thing that on Smark Out Moment, maybe I just like, hey, you know what? I'm not doing TV coverage because that takes up a lot of time. And that would give me enough of a thing where I'd be like, okay, maybe now it's a little bit easier to handle recording podcasts and editing podcasts and writing up articles and whatever. Because remember, everybody, even though like we're talking for like an hour and a half here, that's an hour and a half of just the talking. I gotta edit it. I gotta write up the templates. I gotta post the things on whatever like that. WWE's got a lot of irons in the fire, and taking a couple things off, I don't think that it will hurt them all that much. I don't think getting rid of main event outside of the Hulu contract and getting rid of 205 Live and not expanding into NXT India and not and NXT Japan and whatever and doing this and doing that. We've talked about the 3 hours of Raw. Those 3 hours of Raw make it harder for them to do the show instead of giving them more time to have the flexibility to work with things. All it does is it makes them go, how do we stretch this out and cut a 10-minute promo of the same people and have them show up 3 times on an episode?
Yeah, my hope is that somebody pulls the plug on that third hour. And I know that there are contracts involved, but I'm hoping that it's so bad that they're just like, yeah, we're cutting this.
It's a shame
No
that they
more.
couldn't do the Raw Underground thing.
That's another thing. That was the last time I was genuinely excited about Raw. When they introduced Retribution and they did Raw Underground, I was like, okay, cool. Maybe we're going somewhere.
Because
And
that could have been fun. That could have been the type of thing that, like, they have 2 hours of Raw,
and then Raw Underground.
and then they have an hour of Raw Underground. So they have 3 hours of TV. It's just that that third hour actually is different instead of the type of thing that they did with McFoley, where he's like, the third hour is really dark and gritty, so we're going to turn the lights down a little bit for a week. That's not how that works. You can't just do a quick fix, slap some tape on something and expect it to just be fine going forward. Eventually, as much as you can put a garbage bag on your window, you're going to need to get the car window fixed. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Eventually the cold's going to come in, the fucking winter's coming. It's snowing today. Looks great. Woke up earlier today and I immediately had the song from Donkey Kong Country in my head while I was looking at the snow. But
Best.
I wouldn't put it past WWE to have either AJ Styles or The Miz win the WWE Championship here, quite literally in their mind, just to get people to tune into Raw. And then they'll go, we'll figure it out. And then you could be 20,000 people could tell them, but you never figure it out. And they'll go, yeah, but you know what? We'll figure it out this time. And if we don't, we'll figure it out the next time. And we'll figure it out. You don't have infinite lives,
I am telling you right now, the only way that a title changing hands gets them to tune into Raw is if you have Adam Cole in the Undisputed Era, or even like Finn Balor come out, help AJ, too sweet AJ, and then everybody goes, oh my God, the Bullet Club's running wild in every single promotion. That's the only way you get people to tune into Monday Night Raw.
Or you get something like, it's just not going to happen. Not a prediction whatsoever. Don't put this on me as being like, Tony said that this way. No, he's not saying that. You want to pop a rating? Guess who's showing up on Monday Night Raw? WWE Hall of Famer Donald Trump. You're gonna fucking pop a rating at that point. You know what I mean?
They're gonna do it. When is he out of there? The 21st, January 20. Let me find the nearest Monday night after Inauguration Day. All right, so Monday night, January 25th. If the Royal Rumble isn't the Sunday prior, Donald Trump will be on Raw. Pop a rating.
They should do something like that,
It's pathetic. It really is, because I get where you're going, and I get where they might think that logic exists, but The Miz ain't it. And I like The Miz. He ain't it. AJ Styles in his current form, he ain't it.
The thing that would happen, and they would have to know this, and this is why I think that they need to just keep the title on Drew McIntyre, because it's not worth just doing this for the sake of doing this. I love The Miz. I love AJ Styles. I'm John Morrison and Drew McIntyre, Sheamus, Keith Lee, all of these guys. I'm a fan of all of them. But Miz or Styles, for instance, winning the WWE Championship on this pay-per-view, at the very most, it bumps them up a little bit on Raw. The following week, it goes right back down.
And you want to get people talking? Have Retribution trash them, trash the ring, take the title, and then go. And then at least you're building towards Drew McIntyre versus Retribution member X at the Royal Rumble. Maybe that would get people talking, but you can't expect, hey, The Miz is champion now, to pop a rating. Or at that point, just go, Brock's coming, because that'll do it. I hate to break it to you. I know we don't like Brock Lesnar, but Brock's coming. We'll pop a rating at this point.
But they need to do more than pop one rating, though, and they have to know this. That something like a Brock, Brock coming back will get that show more ratings.
Brock the title on Raw would pop a number. If you say Brock Lesnar's wrestling on Monday night,
it's going to get people to tune in more. But then when Brock doesn't show up again for another month, those weeks are just going to go back down. Like, they've ran this Brock Lesnar experiment for the past, how many years now? 7?
8.
8? Something like that.
8 this year. It'll be 9 coming up in April.
So nearly a decade, they've had the numbers with Brock Lesnar. They have to know at this point. I know. I've been doing the ratings posts on the website. Brock Lesnar as champion draws for the nights that Brock Lesnar is there. And all the other times in between, he doesn't, because he's not there. There's nothing to watch. You don't watch a TV show that doesn't promise that it's going to be something that's worth watching. That's why you get ratings bumps on season finales where they go, somebody's going to die on this episode of Smallville midway through the season, because it's the mid-season finale and a big thing's going to happen. People go, oh, I'm going to watch that one. I don't know why I went with Smallville out of all the things.
Good show. Good show.
Lots of flaws in it. But Kristen Crook, good choice for Lana Lang. Erica Durance, very good choice for Lois Lane, so on and so forth. But like, that's how you get people to tune in, by giving them a reason to tune in. And once you settle back into your rut, people settle back into not watching. It's just how it works. Unless the show is quality enough that people can watch every single week and go, I can't wait to see that next episode, people aren't going to wait to see the next episode. Mandalorian is a TV show. As flawed as Star Wars has been, Mandalorian kicks ass. That show is great. This last episode, admittedly, I didn't think it was as great as some of the other ones have been. But you know what? On the strength,
you can afford a slip up when you're doing great.
On the strength of 14 other episodes that have mostly been fantastic, I'm going to assume that the next episode's even better. And this one wasn't all that bad. So you watch 10 years worth of Monday Night Raw and you go, God damn it. Like, there's another, like, flawed show where maybe there's a couple elements, or maybe you walk out of an episode and you go, hey, the most entertaining thing was AJ Styles going, peach pie. that shouldn't be for 3 hours. You know what I mean? So I do think
is Otis. Oh, my spicy pepper. Every time he sees Kayla. You can't do that for 3 hours, but it's funny.
Yeah. So I do think that these matches, the McIntyre Styles, the Roman Reigns and Kevin Owens thing, I do think that they can be really good matches, but I don't think that they're really good selling points to change things up. They didn't have a whole lot of other options because they haven't set themselves up on a whole lot of options. I'm a big fan of both matches. The 4 guys, they are fantastic and they are better than this. But WWE hasn't given them anything to work with. So,
and I'm gonna bookend it like this because we went way over time. But the 4 guys and this entire roster is better than this. But if you keep booking them like they're not, eventually, don't listen to what anybody tells you. Perception is reality.
Mm-hmm.
And that it just is what it is. You keep booking people like shit, nobody is going to care. And you cannot rely on, oh, but we're going to get people back and then we'll just do everything because people are back. It's not enough. The landscape is changing in front of your eyes. Catch up.
Mustard.
Barbecue sauce. You know what I mean? Like, we need some condiments on this show because it's dry. And I don't even like condiments, okay? But this show is dry. Thank you.
As somebody who does not like mayo, relish, ketchup, or mustard in the slightest bit, I still fully agree. Condiment King is great, by the way. Fantastic. So I'm going Drew McIntyre and Roman Reigns.
Yeah, as we said about a half an hour ago, Drew McIntyre and Roman Reigns, they're the guys, and it is what it is, and nothing will change.
Well, if anything does change, we will let you know. We will talk about that on the hot tags. And of course, if they do add more matches, that'll be a part of that breakdown. But in the meantime, if anything else changes before the hot tags, you will find it on smarkonmoment.com. I always update the predictions here and there throughout the week leading up. Usually my predictions are pretty solid enough that I don't change the actual like breakdown of what's like, oh, I think that this person's going to win. But then again, I tend to write like 1,000 different predictions types of things. So, maybe my thing on eWrestling News, I got a different thing. Maybe my thing on Bleacher Report I write up is a little bit different or something. Stay tuned. We'll figure it out. Of course, we'll factor this into the Fantasy League later on in the week, and we'll give our whole breakdown with that. I'll do the live chat on facebook.com/groups/the Mega Maniacs if you want to be a part of that and watch the pay-per-view and talk with everybody else on there. And then, of course, at the end of the night, after we've done the whole breakdown on smarkonmoment.com during the pay-per-view, We're going to do the Pay-Per-Viewpoint post-show, recapping the event, doing the results, going over our thoughts, and reviewing everything that goes down with TLC. Next thing you're going to be hearing from us is the hot tags, though. And then
we'll
after
be
that,
talking about how Melina was pitched for a run in NXT, along with whatever happens on the television shows, and I'm sure much more.
Whatever happens, happens. We'll get around to that on Friday. And then we'll do the next episode of the Paul Heyman SmackDown podcast.
Yeah, and that will feature the fallout of Armageddon, which should be up on the Darkcast feed of the Patreon now. So if you want to hear Callum and I talk about Dawn Marie and Tori Wilson making out in a hotel room, you can do that. And we will have episodes for you from now until WrestleMania 19, which might be a watch along. We haven't decided yet, but it's a good one. It's a great show. I love working with Callum. I enjoy all of this, even though a lot of it turns into therapy hour. I love this.
And if it is therapy hour for you guys too, then get off the couch. I want to lay down. Thankfully, we can do this for you guys. Thankfully, you guys are listening. We hope you enjoyed it. We hope you enjoyed TLC. Stay tuned for everything else that's happening. Check out fanboysanonymous.com. Check out smarkmoment.com. Follow me at Tony Mango all over the place. Follow Rob at Dude Felice on Twitter. Check out what he's got up on Fightful and WrestleZone. I've got whatever I've got. Maybe I'll do a Tenet review. I don't know. If Rob checks it out, maybe we'll get on a podcast this weekend.
Maybe that's what we do after the hot tags. Depending on how short those hot tags are, maybe we review Tenet.
Maybe it'll even be the bonus features up on the Patreon or something.
Hell yeah.
I don't know. We'll figure something out. But we'll do whatever we do. And if you're along for the ride, then strap yourselves in. But that's going to do us in for this episode. Thank you for listening again, everybody. We will see you next time. This has been another Smark Out moment. We're being counted out.